Are you having trouble losing weight? It may not actually be what you eat, but when you eat it. The Salk Institute right here in San Diego is doing some groundbreaking research on this, and they are finding that your body clock has a lot to do with your overall health. Dr. Emily Manoogian is here from the Salk Institute to explain. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
This may help to answer a lot of questions for people that have struggled for years to lose weight and cannot figure out what the problem is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all kind of know what you're eating and how much you eat is important, but this missing piece has also been that when you eat is also a huge part of how your body digests that food and how it's going to kind of process it, if it's going to store it as fat or if it's going to use it for energy.
So what did you find?
So the study was actually done locally in San Diego, and we studied about 160 people, and we found that the average eating interval is actually more than 15 hours a day. And we were able to do this because we developed a new smartphone app called My Circadian Clock, and that was really necessary because nutrition studies really weren't looking at when people were eating.
So let's say he wakes up at 5:30 in the morning. They were continuing to eat past 5:30 in the evening. In fact, all the way till the 8, 9 o'clock hour, they were still having
Exactly.
food.
So you're kind of eating across, you know, if your eyes are open, your mouth is open. That's kind of what's happening here, yeah.
So what should people do as far as what did your research find that people need to be eating when? When's the ideal time?
So there's no one specific clock hour. There's no 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. or any one time like that. It's all relative to your body's clocks and what your schedule really is. So if you are waking up at 6 a.m. and going to bed at 10 p.m., usually we say start from the end and say give yourself at least 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed to stop eating so your body can get into that rest mode.
So by 6:30, no more snacks. You don't get into
if you go to bed. Yeah. If you're going to bed then. If you're going to bed at midnight, maybe it's a little bit later for you. So it really depends on your schedule. And similarly with waking up. If you're one of those people that really needs to have something right when they wake up, maybe your eating window's a little bit earlier. But if you're really not hungry, don't force yourself. You know, you can go a little bit later and make sure you still stay satiated throughout the day.
Okay, so you found that people that are eating kind of all day long, past that 12-hour period, what were the health risks in doing that?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. It's really well known in animal studies. If we feed them across the day, they get every chronic disease you could imagine. They're more sensitive to, you know, inflammation is increased throughout the body, so they're more sensitive to cancers. They get diabetes. They have cardiovascular diseases. And in the rodents, we can easily reverse that just by changing the time that they're eating.
Not what they're eating, the
Not
time
what.
that
They're still on a high-fat diet, and if you just change the time, everything is reversed. So that's why these human studies started, and we're just starting to really understand the power that it could have. And so in the original studies and some of the other pilots that are going on in other labs as well, we're starting to see decreases in blood pressure, improvements in how your body processes glucose. So even if you didn't lose a lot of weight, healthier version of yourself.
Wow, okay, so you have made, not only are they doing this research, but they've come up with this super easy to use app where you can keep track of when you're eating and what you're eating. Talk about that.
Yeah, so it's called My Circadian Clock. Circadian means about a day. And it's a way of you take a picture of everything you eat or drink. You only have to give a very short annotation, so you're not, you know, measuring things or weighing anything. And for the first 2 weeks, we have you do it completely blind, so you don't bias yourself. And at the end of those 2 weeks, you get to see what your eating schedule really is. I found out mine was like 16 hours before I had thought about it, because it's that glass of wine at night and that early cup of coffee in the morning, and it just adds up. And after those 2 weeks, you can then set a goal for yourself and say, hey, I want to have a 10-hour eating interval or a 12-hour eating interval. And then you can keep using the app to track your eating under your personal set goals on your time scale, and you can track everything else along the way. You can track your exercise, you can track your sleep, and you can track your health measures. And we asked you to do this for about 12 weeks because we think that's about a time to see most of the results.
Fantastic.
And then we get to learn from it as well.
Thank you for continuing to do this research. It's happening here in San Diego at the Salk Institute. Dr. Emily Manoogian, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
And do come back, because I know you're continuing to do research in other areas with this exact topic. So fascinating.